Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 4th. Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then welcome. I hope that you will enjoy this video. I'm planning on making sweet and sour meatballs today from scratch. The meatballs will be made from scratch, and so will the sauce. Some of this will be made for our own family supper tonight. Oh my goodness, there's some pieces of egg carton back here because my bird was destroying an egg carton the other day. I'm making a double batch of sweet and sour meatballs because we are... half of them will be for our own family supper tonight, and the other half is going to be for a family from our church. I have to do a meal train delivery. There's a family in our church that's been going through a bit of a rough patch with health issues, and so I signed up to bring them a meal tonight. So this is what we're going to make. We're making sweet and sour meatballs. For the meatballs, all we need is the ground beef, breadcrumbs, water or milk, and salt and pepper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the water in this case. Because they have a dairy issue. So we're not going to be using milk in the meatballs. And then for the sauce, we need brown sugar, some flour, some vinegar, some soy sauce, a bit of water, and some ketchup. So let's get started here. I'm going to put the meatballs together and I'll fry them up a little bit, like brown them, and then I'll probably, instead of putting them in a casserole dish to put in the oven, I will just probably put them in the slow cooker with the sauce and let them cook for a couple hours on low there. And then that way they'll be ready to go. And then when I go to take the meal train over, I'll make some instant rice, some brown rice. I'll put that in the bottom of a tinfoil cake pan, and then layer some meatballs and sauce on top of that to take over to them. And I think that should be a pretty decent meal. I might cook up some frozen vegetables and mix it in with the rice too, and then put the meatballs on top to take. And then whatever the other half of the meatballs and rice will be for us for our supper later. So let's get started. I'll get started on the meatballs here. I've got to get them all put together, and I'll brown them in the frying pan, and then we'll go from there. I'll be back in just a minute once I get you set up on the tripod. Okay, first things first, I'm going to get some ham spray, and I'm going to spray my frying pan a little bit, because as I get these meatballs assembled, I'm going to put them right in and start browning them. You need to add more of that as we go, we'll see. Okay, so we're doing a double batch, so instead of a half a cup of water, we're doing 1 cup. I had a 1 cup measuring cup. Where did it go? It's probably in the dishwasher. So I have a feeling. Oh yeah, there it is. Looks like this dishwasher needs to be run. It's not clean stuff by the looks of it, but it's probably just been water, I think, in it, so it should be fine. But yeah, the family that we're taking the meal to later, they have a dairy issue, so rather than normally for us I would just use milk in the meatballs, but because they have a dairy issue, we're just using water. And that's okay. I don't think I don't really have a preference one way or the other as far as the taste. I don't really notice a big difference. So instead of a cup, half a cup breadcrumbs, we need 1 cup. Okay. Hope everybody else's week is going reasonably well so far. It's Wednesday morning here. We had a holiday on Monday. And I worked yesterday. Off today, then I work Thursday, Friday, and I believe I'm off Saturday, Sunday. So I work the next 2 days. Okay, so salt and pepper, a teaspoon of salt, so that'll be 2 teaspoons, and a 1/4 teaspoon of peppers, that'd be 1/2 teaspoon. So, salt, I guess I'm doing the recommended 2 teaspoons, but it all depends on how much you like. I mean, it's obviously you don't want things to be too overly salty, but we are doing a sweet and sour, so there will be a good amount of tanginess to the sauce. So it's 2 teaspoons of salt, and I need 1/2 teaspoon, I believe I said, of pepper. I have my 1/2 teaspoon somewhere. Where is it? I know I have a whole set. Okay, that's my 1/4 teaspoon, but I'll just do that twice. That's fine. And I need to get like a bowl or a plate or something that as these meatballs brown, I can just transfer them to that until they're all said and done. So it's going to take a little while to get all of these meatballs done. It's a good amount of meat in there. normally what I do when we buy ground beef is we usually buy the big trays, 2 or 3 pounds worth, club packs, and we divide them up into what I would guesstimate to be 1 pound portions. I don't have a kitchen scale, so I don't know for sure, but I try and eyeball it. If I know that it's about 3 pounds to a tray, try and eyeball it, put them into large Ziploc freezer bags, and then flatten them. So I squeeze the air out, flatten them, seal them, and freeze them that way. Oops, in basically 1 pound portions. And that way too, if they're frozen flat, then they don't take up nearly as much room in the deep freeze either. They're nice and compact, and I know I've got them in approximately 1 pound portions, but because I'm doing a batch for us and a batch for them, I'm doing a double batch here, so I'm guessing this was 2 packages of meat, so it should hopefully be 2 pounds. The recipe calls for 1 1/4 pounds, so we'll see. Well, like I say, I don't have a kitchen scale, so when I'm dividing my ground beef up to freeze, I don't measure it precisely, but it might be something I should invest in the future. I don't have my burner on yet. I'm waiting until I get a couple of meatballs in here, then I'll start it. I'll probably turn the heat on high just for a minute to get it heated. Why don't I just start it here? And then as soon as it starts to get a bit warm, I'll turn it down. I need to be able to brown these, so I'll have to grab a spatula and kind of turn them as I go a little bit. You can make the meatballs small or big or however you want. I usually make them kind of a medium size here, roll them all up. That's a fairly large one, but it's okay. Just hoping that they all hold together. These ones do not have an egg in them to hold them, but I guess the breadcrumbs should help hold them together. I usually like to let them brown a little bit before I try and turn them, just so that if I turn them too soon, they'll just break apart, right? So let them kind of brown up a little bit. Try and get these all rolled out. It'll take a little while to do this, but this is the time-consuming part, is doing the meatballs. Making the sauce on the stovetop doesn't take hardly any time at all. You just basically have to combine them in a saucepan or pot and bring it to a boil, and then the sauce is ready to pour over the meatballs. So this is the tedious part here, just getting them all rolled out. Hoping everybody else is having a good week so far. Work was very busy yesterday, Tuesday. We have, at my work, I work at a Canadian grocery store chain called Sobeys, and at my work, the first Tuesday of every month is what's known as Customer Appreciation Day, or some people call it 10% Tuesday. Let me turn that down a bit. Basically, if you spend a minimum $50 before taxes on that day, you have your choice of 20 times your air miles or 10% off your bill. So some people go for the miles, a lot of people go for the discount. I usually go for the air miles because for me, I do the air miles cash. And so if I get 20 times my miles, because air miles cash, I don't get nearly enough air miles to make it worth saving for a trip with miles. So I do air miles cash. So every 95 miles you earn is equivalent to $10 you can redeem in store. So for me, air miles cash works well. So then if you spend, say, $60, you get 3 base air miles, because it's 1 mile per $20 spent. And then if you choose a 20 times your miles, well, 20 times 3 is 60. So I've earned 60 miles right there in that case. You know, the more you buy, the higher your total is. If you do 20 times your miles, if you spend $100, that's 5 miles. Times 20, you've earned 100 miles right there. And 95 is $10. So it's an easy way to earn $10, $20, $30 worth of air miles cash if you shop on that day. You just have to know your prices and know where the points are best. Like when I go to Superstore, we have the PC Optimum program where you don't get points on everything you buy, but you get points on things that are on your weekly offers. So you capitalize on those if something is on your offers that you do not need, because there's no point in wasting it, letting it go to waste, or either buying just like one thing on it. You can, with the PC Optimum program, you can defer up to 4 offers per week, and you can defer them for multiple weeks. So for instance, I get the 10 kilogram bags of no-name flour at Superstore. It's a good price, usually. And right now I have 1.5 bags. So I don't need another bag right now. So if the no-name flour comes up on my offers again anytime soon, which it often does, that's one I usually will defer week after week after week. And at least until I finish the half bag I have going, then maybe I'll buy another bag. Once I open a new one, then I'll have another one in reserve if I buy one at that point. Okay. These guys are starting to sizzle here. I'm already getting quite a few in the pan. I'll have to start turning some in a bit. I'm just waiting until they get a little bit brown on the bottom or are solid enough on the bottom that it's okay to turn them without fear of them breaking apart. If I use a wooden spoon or spatula or something just to turn them a little bit. Or I can even give a few of them a nudge with a finger. Yeah, this is already starting to spit. I'm going to turn this down. Don't need to be spit on by the grease here. Okay. That's the only thing with doing these meatballs from scratch is your hands get quite greasy. So periodically I find I need to rinse my hands a little bit. Alright. Some of these guys a little nudge. I don't know if I want to use the spatula or not. I don't want them falling apart. I'll just give them a bit of a nudge this way. There we go. Yeah, some of these ones on this side were the first ones I started, so you can tell they're already. Okay. I know that Ruby, our African gray parrot that we adopted July 1st, I know in the next room, I know she would love to get out of her cage right now and be in here, but she needs supervision. She's 22 years old, but we've only had her a month, and in a lot of ways having birds, having parrots is like having a bunch of toddlers in the house. You can't leave them unsupervised. So even if I were to let her out here in the kitchen, chances are she might sit on the floor, she'd run around, but she'd be squawking because we had her up on the counter the other day chewing an empty egg carton, and she loved that. And I think ever since then, though, she wants to be on the kitchen counter. So if I had her out right now, I wouldn't be able to do this probably very well because she would be wanting to be involved in everything and getting into things she shouldn't, just like a toddler. I might have been able to get away with just doing one package of beef, but if I'm trying to make enough for our supper and for another family supper, then I felt it was probably wise to make a double batch. And you could probably, because this is such a basic meatball, I could probably make these without the sauce and make them into meatballs and freeze them just raw as meatballs if I wanted. And make them like a freezer meal and then I got a bunch of meatballs in the freezer. Or I could make them plain like this and cook them like I am right now, brown them, and then freeze them cooked. And then I have a bunch of meatballs in the freezer to use later. I probably could do that. I want to say that 20 years ago or so, or 22 years ago when I was pregnant with my daughter, I want to say that I did that with meatballs, is that I made a batch and froze them. I didn't do a lot of freezer meals or meal prep like that when I was pregnant, but I want to say this is one thing I did do. I never have been great with like freezer meals, but one thing I would like to do when I do a lasagna next is I'd like to make two. One to eat and one to freeze. And I would freeze the other one uncooked. Like I would obviously brown the ground beef and layer it all together and then freeze it like that. And that way we've got a meal in the freezer for a time that I don't have another supper plan. I can just pull it out. Oh, that one's done. That did not work go so well. Lost one. Lost a meatball. So either want to make chicken pot pies, I would like to be able to put some in the freezer, or perhaps a pan of lasagna or something like that. Things that I know that would freeze well and use them at a later time. Okay, this pan is already almost full. I'm going to take another bowl, and once these are brown, I'll transfer them to there. Some of them are already browning on one side. At this point, I'm just kind of nudging them with my fingers to put them in. They're fragile, so I don't want to just, I'll try and trim them with a spatula. It's a better way. They're a little fragile, some of them still. Don't want to break them. But also don't want to burn any either, so. Don't mind my fingers. Again, most of that, I've been washing my hands as I go. And I'm trying to stay on top of this as best I can. Actually, the meatballs are coming along not bad. The pan is getting to be quite full. Ooh, that one's very soppy. I wonder if there's any onion. Oh, yeah, some crumbs down here that didn't get blended in thoroughly. Okay, I'll mix those into that. So with what is down at the bottom, I need to get the last of those breadcrumbs worked in. I see there's some that are not fully worked in, so most of it is, but I got a little bit at the bottom of the bowl that did not get completely worked in the mixture here. Okay, that's better. But I don't have a lot of room in the pan for too many more meatballs at this point. Let's see, put a couple in there. Just let them. I have the heat is basically on low at this point. The grease is already simmering away. I might have room over here for one more. And should only probably, I don't even know how many I'll get in total out of this batch. It's a double batch, so we'll see. It's a pretty good size. The pan is already getting to be quite full. Got to be a good couple dozen in there already as it is. Might get another dozen meatballs here. We're getting there. Okay, I can probably fit one more and that'll be about it until I get some of them out. I'll get them out and onto a plate or in a bowl or something. It's hard to flip them when there's this many in there, but it's okay. All right. I guess you probably can't see too much with the bowl right there. Hopefully you can see a little bit. Yeah. That's the only thing, like I say, when you're doing this, you do tend to get a lot of the fat from the beef on your hands. Maybe I'll grab a glass bowl to put them in until, this isn't the biggest glass bowl, but I'll just stack them in there as they come out until we're ready to transfer them. Okay, so how are we doing here? I'm going to use a spoon to get some of them out. That might be the easiest. Yeah, that's pretty brown on both sides, that one. Okay. This one here looks like it's pretty brown. Even if it's not completely cooked through, as long as they're fairly brown, they are going to cook a few hours in the slow cooker with the sauce, so that'll finish them off in the middle. This one here looks like it's, yeah, it's quite brown. Okay. And I see one here, it looks suspiciously very brown. Yeah, this is the time-consuming part, is making and browning all the meatballs. But it is a good recipe. As I said, I've been making it for years, since I was pregnant with my daughter, and that goes back to 1999, 2000. So just haven't made them in a while because they are quite a bit of work, but not bad though. I mean, I could probably very easily buy a package of frozen meatballs and just, you know, and even a bottle of sauce, or just even make my own sauce, but add them to frozen meatballs. But I don't know. I tend to like to make a lot of things from scratch, even when it comes to baking especially. I like to do a lot of things from scratch if I can. Some things are easier pre-made, but... Alright. Move it here for a few more. I think we've got a pretty good batch of meatballs going here. That should be quite a good. Right, there we go. Get those guys. I think that one is also ready to go in. Another meatball that I do, I can't remember what goes into that meatball, but it's a different recipe that I got from my mother-in-law. It's called porcupine meatball. And I can't remember what the meatball itself has in it, other than salt and pepper, and I know you put instant rice in it. And you don't need to brown those ones. There's salt, pepper, and rice, probably some liquid, probably water. I can't remember, I haven't made those in quite a while. But those ones you don't need to brown. You just make the meatballs, you layer them in a 9x13 pan. And then for the most part, the sauce that you put on them is a couple of cans of cream and mushroom soup. And maybe a bit of water. And then the rice cooks as the meatballs do, because it's instant rice, right? So they don't take long. So, but as the meatballs cook in the oven, the liquid from the soup and the water that you add cooks the rice up, as well as, you know, your meatballs are also browning too. That's one of my daughter's favorites, are porcupine meatballs. And I haven't made those in quite a while. But I couldn't do that really today for this family because of cream of mushroom soup. Anything that's cream of to me says dairy. So if this family has dairy issues, then I don't really think I should be messing around with those. My daughter isn't as big of a fan on this dish because she doesn't like a lot of sauces, but she'll probably end up she'll either try these or else she'll have something else, whether it be hot dogs or a soup or whatever. But I try to make things that everybody likes or that she likes or what have you, but, you know, at 21 years old, she knows how to make something. If she doesn't care for what I made, she knows how to make something simple, even if it's just as basic as hot dogs. Okay, how are we doing here? Put these guys out in the middle. That one needs to be tip and see. This one already quite dark. And almost to the end of my ground beef. So meatballs are just, I basically will have to finish browning them. And then it'll be on to making the sauce, get them going in the slow cooker, and then it's good. And making the instant rice later, that will not take any time because I'm not doing long grain rice, I'm just doing instant rice. And adding frozen vegetables, those also won't take long to boil up either. So should be a fairly straightforward, easy meal, both for them and for us. I haven't made it in a while because, you know, like I say, doing the meatballs themselves is a little bit of work, but it's worth it. It's nice, something to have nice and homemade. Like I say, it would be convenient, I suppose, to grab a package of pre-made meatballs, but I do like to make from scratch, partly because I guess I'm a stickler for doing things homemade. But sometimes convenience wins out. Like if I had to go to work this afternoon on top of this, I probably wouldn't be doing all this right now. I'd probably throw a whole chicken in the crock pot with a spice rub or something simple. But because I don't. This isn't a work day for me. I had to take my daughter to work at 7:30 this morning, and that was it. Today's just a day of errands. Today is make our meal and their meal, and a doctor's appointment later. Few errands, few odds and ends, but nothing too strenuous. So because of that, I can take the time to do something from scratch that is a little bit time consuming normally, because I actually have the time to do it today. Okay, so wash my hands again, all that grease. All right, so maybe what I'll do is I'll pause you here, and then once the meatballs are all done and in the bowl, then I will show you how I make my sauce here. I've got some already done here, and these ones have to be turned a little bit more yet. So I will leave that for there for now. I'll show you once I have the bowl full, and I'll have a saucepan out at that point to make the sauce, and I'll bring you along for the sauce making part of it all, because I'll be back shortly. Okay, now we're on to making the sauce for the meatballs. It calls for 2 cups of brown sugar. Because I'm making a double batch, we're doing 4 cups. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. I've already measured the first 2 cups out. Just close to 2-cup mark again. Should be. Yeah, another 2 cups, so we're good for that. I desperately need to make room on my counter. What you're seeing here probably looks tidy and okay, but you haven't seen the other side of the kitchen yet. Okay, so now we need 2 tablespoons of flour, but that means that we're going to need 4 tablespoons since we're doubling. And of course the flour will help to thicken the sauce. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Open on the stove top there. The cloth get to. Alright. Oh, I just need to go grab something from the cabinet. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. 1 second. Okay, so we're back. Now for the vinegar, which is next, we needed 1/2 cup if it was a single batch, but because we're doing a double batch, we need 1 cup of vinegar. Maybe what I'll do is I will blend that flour and brown sugar together first. Probably take a whisk when it starts to cook and work it through with that a little bit to make sure there's no clumps of the flour or the sugar. Just get this stuff basically blended in a little bit. Yeah, some of this brown sugar, I wouldn't say it's old, but I did buy it a few months ago, and this is the first time I've opened this bag. It's soft, but there are definitely some clumps in it, so I gotta work those through. But once the liquid's in there, that will also help. So we need 1 cup of vinegar since we're doing a full batch, or a double batch rather. Just regular white vinegar. The liquids in here will definitely help. It's not broken all up yet, but it's okay. The more liquid we add as we boil it, it will definitely all break up and dissolve as it should. There, now more of the flour's getting broken up. That looks better. I know you can't see from where you are. I don't have this. That little tripod I have for my phone isn't the greatest. I don't have it set up. It doesn't extend higher, so we will have it up high and bending down. I need to get a better one. But I will show you in a bit here. And it's 1/4 cup of water. So in this case, because it's a double batch, it'll be 1/2 cup of water. Is that 1/2? No, just shy of a 1/2. 1 And then we need 2 tablespoons soy sauce, which is 4 because we're doubling. And I believe 1 tablespoon of ketchup, so it'll be 2 since we're doubling. So I'm gonna measure out 4 tablespoons of this. Pouring out pretty good there. That might have been a little bit much, so maybe we'll just back off on the 4th one. Still put 4 in, but I put a little bit less in on them before because I think I got a little bit extra in on the first one. And now 2 of ketchup. Get it all out of the spoon. Okay, now this is where the whisk will probably come in to help get the clumps out, because there's a, I can see the ketchup wants to just kind of sit there. So maybe, okay, add combine brown sugar and flour, blend thoroughly, add vinegar, water, soy sauce, and ketchup. Stir over medium-high heat until boiling. Grab the whisk, that'll help me break up any little clumps there. Bring you a little closer. I don't know how much you'll be able to see in the pot, but I'll do it on this one. Yeah, there's definitely some clumps that need to be broken up. They're primarily like globs of ketchup more than anything else. I'm going to take this bowl of meatballs and put it to the side because I'm going to have to put the crock pot kind of behind where the tripod is. Okay, sorry about that. Somehow or other I managed to accidentally turn off the camera. Must have bumped something. Okay, so I'm going to put my cookbook aside because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to get this started on the heat. And in the meantime, I'm going to have to grab my rock pot and get it set up in the background here. Because once that sauce boils, it'll be ready to go in the crock pot with the meatballs. If I can find which crock pot I'm using. Oh, there it is. I have an older crock pot. I have a couple different crock pots. And the one I use for my meatballs is a tall one. It's quite old. I've had it a number of years. But it still works. That's the main thing. Oh, goodness. Hard to get down and get in there, though. The pot itself is fine. Give the lid a bit of a dusting, though. Get this done in the background. Haven't used it in a while, so I'm just going to make sure I give this a bit of a dusting before I do anything with it. Okay. Now, get this guy plugged in. Okay, everything is got all the clumps out of this now. I just have to get it to a boil. Yes, my kitchen is a mess. Haven't seen the other side of my kitchen yet today, but I don't know how much of it I will show you. I guess I could, as far as being transparent and showing you that, you know, just because things look okay in the in this part of the video doesn't mean I have it all together all over the place. I really don't. Now hopefully this crock pot will still warm up. Oh yeah, I can feel it warming up already. You haven't seen it yet, but it's more of a taller crock pot instead. I do have some that are lower, like oval ones. This one's more of a taller one, which would be okay for soups or what have you. And I don't know why I prefer this one, but for whatever reason I do for meatballs, I like it. I'm gonna layer some meatballs in the bottom of it in the background here. But it was a a wedding gift from my first wedding, or bridal shower gift from my first wedding back in 1993, and this crock pot's still going. Doesn't get used a lot. I do tend to use my lower oblong ones or oval shaped ones more, but this one does get brought out once in a while for like split pea soup or meatballs. Chili, it could be, but the batch of chili I make is too big for this crock pot, so I usually use one of my other ones. I think I have 3. One is one my mother-in-law used to use and doesn't need anymore. I don't really use that one all that terribly much, so it's really my one main oval one and this that I use the most. I put a layer of meatballs in the bottom of the crock pot in the background, and then once this boils, I'll pour some of the sauce over top, and then I'll put the rest of the meatballs in. This is quite a big batch of meatballs though, so I'm wondering if I might need to make a 3rd batch of sauce. I'll have to see. This is probably more meatballs than I expected to make. But that's okay, that means there'll be lots, both for our family and for the family I'm taking them to. Yeah, this is quite a few. I know you can't see because I'm doing it off camera, but I'm just trying to focus on spending a bit of time layering those, but also keeping an eye on this so it doesn't, so when it boils, it's ready to be taken off the heat. The mailman was just here. I heard our mailbox. I know in one of the YouTubers I follow, Shannon over at Kitchen Shenanigans, we were talking on one of her lives the other night about doing a Christmas card exchange potentially this year. It's only August 3rd, but you know, you realize that it is actually less than 5 months till Christmas. So, and a bunch of us, when she has her lives, it's kind of always the same group of us that get together on her lives and chat. So I think a bunch of us have all kind of gotten to know each other quite well. So I think there's talk of doing a gift card exchange of sorts for Christmas. I think that'd be kind of fun. Anybody that knows me or knows me well knows I love Christmas. But that being said, I'm not ready for it just yet. Our winters here in Canada are quite long and quite cold, so when we finally get our summers, we want to enjoy them. But still, Christmas is never very far from my mind. I always think about it, and yeah, it's less than 5 months already. I bought a couple of small gifts already. I know that probably sounds early, but I like to buy a few things ahead just because then it's not as much expense all at one time in November, December. Okay, we've got the sauce to a boil. And we don't want it boiling over, so we're going to just turn it off, take it off the heat. Ooh, that's a strong sauce. I can smell that. Got a bit of a blast there. Now, we can probably just pour it in. Let me get this turned around here. How's that look? You're looking right up to the crock pot here. Let's do this from the other end of the counter. It'll probably be easier. There. Make it a little taller though. Okay, I'm gonna label some. Oh yeah, this probably is adequate sauce, I think. Here, I was thinking I need to make a 3rd batch, but I don't think so. There's actually more in here than I realized. I always underestimate that. I always think I'm looking at it going, oh, this is so many meatballs for such a little sauce, but actually it's a decent amount of sauce. I turned the heat on the crock pot to high just to get it hot, but I'll probably just, once I get the lid on, turn it down to low. Okay, I'll put the rest of these in here. Ooh, that's a good size. Let's distribute these a little bit better. That is going to be a pretty full crock pot of meatballs. Now, hopefully this will get coverage to as many meatballs as we can. overhang from the microwave is in the way a little bit. Put this forward. Get whatever last drops out we can. Be good. Now we just wipe off the edge of the pot. All right, let's go back and clean my kitchen up a little bit. What a mess. All right, so I will show you. Like I said, I have it on high at the moment. I'm going to turn it down to low. So this is where we're at. Now normally, oh, hello, my thing wants to spin on me here. My recipe says to cook it in a casserole dish for 30 minutes, but I am just going to do it in the crock pot. That's what I usually prefer to do. So that's what's going to happen. It's going to be on low in the crock pot. It's 10:19 right now, so probably till about, maybe 1:30. 3 hours is probably more than enough on low, because the meatballs themselves were already browned quite a bit, so they are not going to take long to cook through. It's more just, so basically I put it on low for about 2 to 3 hours. Till like 1 o'clock, 1:30. That'll be enough for the meatballs to finish cooking completely thoroughly through and to let the sauce really absorb into them. So at that point, I will turn it off and I'll probably make some instant rice, some brown rice, and I'll layer that in the bottom of the pan that I'm using to take over to that family from church. And we'll make enough so that we have some too. And I can boil up some vegetables to mix into the rice. And then I'll layer that in the pan and add the meatballs to the top of it. And I'll show you how that all turns out. I'll show you how the meatballs turned out in a couple of hours once I'm done. And I'll show you the finished product once I get it all in the pan that I'm taking to them. Just taking like an 8x8 or 9x9 cake pan to them, because I think there's only 2 adults and a couple of kids. And only one of the kids I think is old enough to be, well, I guess 2 of them. I think there's either 2 or 3 kids, I'm not sure. But I don't think the kids are that terribly old. Like I think the oldest is maybe 5, so they're probably not going to eat like a huge... The ones that'll eat the most will be the 2 adults. So anyway, let me let you go for the time being. I'm going to try and tidy my kitchen up. And I'll be back in a couple hours to show you how the meatballs turned out. And again, I'll show you the finished product before I package, once I packaged up the meal that I'm delivering to the family. And so I'll show you the finished product in just a few hours. I'll be back shortly. Okay, and we're back. It is now 1:30 in the afternoon. As you can see in here, I've made up the brown rice and the frozen vegetables, cooked them all up, mixed them together. Now I'm just going to add some meatballs and sauce to the top. This is the dish that we're giving away. Meatballs there. We have quite a bit of rice left over. I was going to give some to the birds in their chop. I made enough vegetables that they could probably have some. But I realized after the fact I put roasted red pepper spice in with the rice, and I don't think the bird's going to have that. So we probably, if I make them rice, I'll probably have to make them some plain stuff. What do we got going here? A couple of these. How many do we have so far? 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. And I've got a plastic lid for this. I'm going to let it cool and let it sit in the fridge for a while. Because it's only 1:30, we don't have to take the meal over till about 5:30, so. Put that in there. It's quite a bit. Still have a good bit left though. It's nice and thick. The sauce came out good. Sprinkle a little bit of sauce in there too. already been to pick my daughter up at work. She finished at noon, so she's done work for the day. Just a short 4-hour shift today. And again, tomorrow morning, same shift. Okay. That still leaves us a good bit for our dinner, so that's fine. Middle. There. A little bit of sauce. Just sprinkle just a little bit more of this rice over the top. And a little more sauce. Okay, that should do it, I think. Off. Lid back on, keep ours warm. I'm gonna clean up this counter. Okay, so that is it. That is sweet and sour meatballs. Meatballs and the sauce are all made from scratch, and then I just cooked up some brown instant rice and some frozen vegetables and combined the rice and the vegetables together. Put a layer of that on the bottom of the pan, and then put the meatballs and sauce on top, and sprinkle a little bit more rice and vegetables on top again, and there you have it. And then we still have, as you can see, not a bad amount in there. I mean, it doesn't look like, it's hard to say because this is a fairly deep crock pot, but there's still probably a couple dozen meatballs in there left for our dinner as well. And a good bit of rice left over too, quite a bit actually. And I was going to give some to the birds, but like I said, I put the roasted red pepper spice in that rice, and I don't think the birds can have that, so I'll have to make them up a cup or so of their own brown rice, and then I'll give them what little bit of vegetables are left over, and then we can have, we'll just make frozen peas or corn to have with our dinner. Anyway, that is it for right now. So that is, I just have to get this meal set aside in the fridge. I'm going to let it chill for a while just to cool off. We have about 4 hours till we have to deliver it, so I'm not going to put the plastic lid on until after it's cooled, because otherwise there'll be all kinds of condensation in there. But that is how everything turned out. Everything smells good. Now I'm going to clean my kitchen up and get some other work done. I've got a doctor's appointment at 4, and I've got some laundry to do and some other odds and ends. I just bought a new planner that runs from August 2021 to December 2022, so I need to continue writing in what I know of August. There's some things like my daughter's and my work schedules that I don't know for the entire month, but I'll write in what I do know, and perhaps I'll do a video showing you how I've set up my planner once I get it all done. We'll see. Anyway, that is everything for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing this recipe. It's very simple. The time-consuming part is making the meatballs and browning them, but I prefer to do homemade anyway. I like to do everything from scratch. The meatballs were from scratch, and so is the sauce. I prefer to do it that way, even if it is a little time-consuming. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Hope to see you guys next time. Have a great week, everyone.